Hello, dear Leo, and welcome to Cat Tarot. My name is Kat. I'm going to be your narrator for this session. And if we get lucky, then my kitty the Sapphire is going to join us with her little beautiful furry butt, and she brings luck. But so far today, no luck. So let's see what happens. So what I'm going to do, as you have seen the title, there are two readings in one. And you have something from the past coming through. This might be connecting to Mercury retrograde. Yay! This month we have the first Mercury retrograde of the year. So what basically we're going to do, first we're going to do the January reading, and then we are going to do a really quick 2021 intro. So if you guys haven't put yourself on the mailing list, just check the link, the very first link down in the description, and this is going to be it. That way you're going to get my interpretation for numerology for 2021. You're also going to get monthly calendar, not calendar, kind of like I issue calendars with putting all the celestial events on it, so that way you can print it and it can kind of guide you. So let's start, Leo. Let's get into the business. So Leo, for January, oh my gosh, finally it's the new year coming through. I'm feeling so optimistic about it. So Leo, whoa, it's you. It's the year about you. Oh my freaking god, this makes so much sense, because this 2020, and this is that numerological vibrational 4, we need to kind of like create stability. So stability cannot be created if we are building the stability on house of cards. So this entire pandemic just crushed us all down, and I really don't think that learning lessons are done. For you guys who like to be a center of attention, who like the social aspects, this was a hard year, right? And I believe, like in this card really means to me, that you have experienced that political and social stress of the past year, and maybe you're getting into, this is R&R time, rest and relaxation, right? So maybe you need to really double down on self-care and doing things that you like, because you really don't want to, like, lose your luster, right? And also this month on the 28th we have full moon in Leo. We are entering Aquarius on the 19th, and then is like full moon kind of like a few days later. It's funny because I was born during kind of like that connection, so my moon is in Leo, and no less but in full moon. So Fire King is basically showing through that you're kind of claiming yourself, you're coming through. There is like something of an essence that is going to start to kind of like build these fires, which is very unusual, because at this time of the year, like right, the opposite on the axis of Aquarius Leo, you feel weak, you feel exhausted, but not in January. And it could be some kind of flirtation. This could be another Leo, or it could be another fire sign, and it could be even a water sign. You're having here a sea kitten or a page of cups. So something might look interesting. This is not a promising thing, it's interesting. Like, this is somebody you like, somebody winks at you, and you're saying, okay, let me wink back, let's see where this goes, kind of a thing. So this also could mean that there's like somebody with a child, somebody kind of like comes as a package deal as well. You have a Six of Sky. It could have been some kind of like kerfuffle, or it's going to be in January. This is coming through for many, many signs. So I believe this is connecting with Mars moving into Taurus. It's not comfortable spot, it's literally square peg in the round hole. And this also would further emphasize need for self-care and licking your wounds and be there for yourself. It almost looks like everybody wanted their piece of the action, everybody wanted their way, everybody wanted things to happen how they wanted, and you're getting scratched. So I guess this is kind of like a smart thing, like, look, even if I win, is it worth it? I'm out. I'm kind of out, right? And this is kind of like going in a different situation, or even withdrawing yourself from a situation. You may have had exchange of the words of some sort, or maybe somebody was trying to exert control upon you. But look at this, you emerged like that Fire King, like the King of Jungle. That is really, really important. This all could also have some kind of like emotional component in it. It's interesting that you have a fire and air, and they generally work together well. But then there's a little bit thrown water in it, right? Just to maybe cool it off kind of situation. So maybe something has happened that has been quote unquote handled, but it's still brewing. Maybe you're not realizing this yet. Whew, this is in the past, the Emperor. Maybe it was somebody who is really important to you. This could actually talk about your family, your parents, your father. And to me, when I saw it, I said, it's the card number 4. So we are going from the year number 4, and you can see, because 2020, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 adds to 4. This is the personal year number 4, and that's what they said. I'll actually talk about, universal year number 4. Personal year is a little bit different. If you want to find out what your personal year is, just send me an email. Send me an email and give me your birth date, and I will send it back to you free of charge. No worries. So this to me almost like meant this year. It was like a lot. Believe it or not, you actually did a lot into ripping things apart, into kind of like finding the elements of you and realizing maybe different approach to these animals. The Emperor is usually very clinical. And clinical is the word because now we got freaking pandemic. It's just like this house of cards doesn't work. We need to kind of like take it down. We need to reprogram it. And you actually reprogrammed yourself. There was quite a bit of interactions over here. Maybe somebody was forcing their attitude on you. Maybe you are in a position that you have a husband or partner. This is a general reading. So guys, general reading meaning you have to check your sun, your moon, sun, and your ascendant in order to get more details, or you can contact me for a private reading. That's different at that stage. So maybe somebody, I don't know, you can see the little lions over here as well, which is kind of like somebody maybe almost like keeping you a little bit constrained under their foot. That's why kind of like parents usually come to mind, and kind of like also belongs to the 4th house. Above you, you have 9 of Earth. You're actually feeling really comfortable where you are, as you are. Even though the situation is a little bit withdrawn, you're looking to the outside, so you're not completely closed in, but the wall is here, right? The wall is closed, even though there is an opening. It's not like 4 of Pentacles when there is like a complete kind of like closure. No, there is like something looking out. So whether maybe you're looking out somebody who walked away, maybe there was like some kind of like argumentative situation, or somebody felt it was just too much friction. That also could be the case. But look at what I see here. 9 and 6, 15. 15 is the Devil card in tarot. And Devil card can talk about codependency. It could mean somebody trying to kind of like twist you around your little finger, right? And kind of like having their way. And kind of like simply withdrawal of this is like, no, I have to feel comfortable. I have to feel right. Maybe somebody didn't feel financially right, or somebody was affected by your state of affairs one way or the other. But kind of like that is some kind of like tune that is coming back for some reason, right? That there is like this attitude that you have, possibilities built upon, I don't know, constraints. And the Emperor also shows the constraints of society, what society expects of us. Oh, you need to be a mother, and you need to be a wife and a mother in a great shape, and after the pregnancy you have to have a flat stomach in no freaking time, right? And sexy and smart and everything. Oh my freaking god, like, I mean, thinking, just get away from me kind of a thing, right? Everybody kind of like gets into that situation. So I think this is also relating for Uranus going direct, which was retrograde since August 15, 2020, which was in your sign. So when Uranus goes retrograde, it's a trickster planet, so everything is spinning like this, but Uranus goes like sideways and kind of like twirls around. So you can imagine, so now on top of that it's going kind of like retrograde. So it was the time for us to learn about self-care and learn about how in a pinch we can kind of like attend to it, right? And now it's kind of weird because it was in Taurus, and it was 10 degrees Taurus, and that kind of like to some of us, for you in particular, gave you maybe around August an idea that somebody is actually a good partner, because when these transitions are happening, right, direct and retrograde, they're usually represented with Sabian symbols. And the Sabian symbol from 10 degree Taurus, when it turned retrograde, was a person, a king on a pedestal with a bounty, right? It's almost like a king of pentacles. And now we are coming out of it. We are going direct on the 14th on the 6 degrees, and it's being represented with a cow, and that is kind of like going through this like beautiful pasture and really, really enjoying it. So it's kind of like getting out on the other side and kind of understanding that you actually benefit something out of it, even though maybe at the time you didn't see it. And that self-care sometimes means withdrawing yourself from the situation. So as you kind of had the jumper, which was the Ace of Wands, it can talk about maybe your old attitudes will come back to the surface. Maybe you'll reanalyze them. Maybe the people will come back, because guys, we are going to, ta-da, Mercury retrograde, January 30th. For some of us, for people who are usually air signs, or who have Mercury, like also Virgos and Geminis, who have Mercury kind of strong in their chart, kind of like we affect a little bit more than 3 weeks. That kind of like rules you. So we will be also affected with the shadows, and shadow is when it kind of like rolls in and then it comes out. So this is the shadow going in and the shadow going out, kind of a thing, right? So the shadow is starting, so let's say 30 minus 3 weeks is 21, so it's on the 7th. We are already kind of like starting to feel shadow. So prepare yourself. If you feel that you're like on the higher level spiritually, you might start to feel like, I mean, discrepancies and so on and so forth. It's going to be interesting because Mercury is going transferring on January 8th in Aquarius. And when Mercury comes in Aquarius, so communication plus groups and friendliness, you can see it's going to be lots of chatter going around, right? And also, when kind of like Mercury goes retrograde, it can means that we kind of like, quote unquote, violate. I don't think that's the good word. Because Uranus and Mercury both are very unpredictable. Uranus, like in Kabbalah, is above Mercury. It's like God. Uranus is like the sky father versus Gaia is Earth mother, and this is the marriage that happened. That's the story behind Uranus. And Uranus was not that freaking nice. It's very much like this emperor, right? And it kind of like neglected the kids, and it's a story. It's kind of the opposite of the sun that you have, right? It has to be, because it's on the other kind of like end. So you have no freaking time for it. It's just like you want some kind of solidity, and if this solidity cannot be provided to you, you're just going to go on your own. You're going to go your own way. And there is like the Death card, and it's really interesting that you have like these two major arcanas mirroring each other. And this is the card of the birth and of transformations and of deaths, of course, right? It's kind of like a sad card if you really look at it, but at the same time, look at the kind of like the little kind of worship kind of a thing. You're not forgotten. You're just not physically present, but things are moving on in your direction. For you in this configuration, I really feel, because this is almost the same card. What do I mean? Because yes, in tarot, it's different. This is the emperor sitting on the throne, and this is like, I mean, a kitty that just died, and it's kind of like waiting for the next reincarnation. But check it out. This is the card number 4, and this is the card number 13. So 1 and 3 is 4. That's right. So this is actually a higher vibration. You need to get your home straight. You need to build it kind of like properly. And now we need to strive for the better things. It's like just not enough to have the walls. We need to have some kind of like soul placed in it. So this card is really talking about that mostly all of these issues that you kind of like felt, that you have been saddled with, are going to be released. Those issues are no longer going to be needed, but you need to put a stop. And looks like you are going to spend January putting stop to a crap. Like you have this like strong force, and we just finished universal year number 4, which we know how it was. We can't freaking wait for it to finish. And you kind of like are really kind of like needing something easy, breezy, light. And I think you just don't want to look into anything that can be, stressful. So this is your own house. You have the Queen of Cups over there, right? A sea queen. And this is the one that holds the biggest cup. This means if you have been stepped on, if you have lost your partner and partner walked away or something happened, usually this cup goes dry, right? Because we wonder what we did wrong and why something that looked very promising didn't go in the direction that we hoped for. So when we get in the situation over here, we are kind of like understanding that our cup is filled back. You're ready. Something that maybe has happened, maybe something that your wings were clipped, no longer is the case. Now it is a time to open up, to move forward, and to really enjoy. Things are going in a completely new direction over here, my dear. And so Sea Queen to me means that you are willing to go forward. You either are going to redefine the relationship that you are in, or you're going to not to jeopardize things that you know are not going to really work out. This is like really important card. Look at this emotional component that we are seeing over here. Something has to stop for you to fill your cup, right? And that means it's time. You have your big lion heart to give. So your environment, you have another queen. Look at this. We have the two queens, but both of them, they're not looking at each other. So even though this is a general reading and queens generally represent females and emperors and kings males, in general reading this really doesn't matter, right? So it could be that this is you and this could be somebody else looking in different directions. So this is water and this is air, and water and air sometimes, well, they're neutralized by each other, but the wind can really create turbulence on water, right? But somebody's looking the other way. Maybe you have somebody, this person is really interesting because Queen of Swords has a bad reputation, but she really shouldn't have a bad reputation. It's the person who has been stepped on and abused and neglected and forgotten. Just think about all of these basically advertising that we see at this time of the year with animals being abused. This is like, but just being a human. And most people who are basically that neglected or that kind of like let down generally turn to drugs or disaster or the life of crime, but not the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords is like the ultimate survivor. Even with a sword in her back, she still pulls it out and she still kind of like licks her wounds and moves forward. However, there is also trade-off for her being the ultimate survivor. The trade-off is that she's not really willing quickly to jump into a relationship. She is a little bit suspicious of the people, but also she kind of studies people. And one kind of a special skill that she has is ability to see the x-ray of the person, the soul of the person. And she knows this really, really quickly. So meanwhile, while you might be really mesmerized of how you are, maybe somebody else is observing something going on in their environment. It almost looks like that you might not come together, but there is like something that is really bringing to your attention that this person does exist. They're dealing with their own measurements. They're the ultimate survivor. They have been going through the thick and thin. They're on a bad day not a person you want to be around. Neither is this Sea Queen. She just turns the like water pipes on and she manipulates that way, while Sky Queen is going to shred you in pieces because she needs to let the steam out at times. But both of them are positive. Both of them are energized. Both of them are kind of like really in their best element, right? So you are able to open your heart and this person is able to understand. And maybe your heart is what they need. And maybe what you need is like somebody who truly understands you because they have been through everything. So sometimes we feel shame of some parts of our life. And this person is going to say, don't feel shame. Don't. Just dust off. Let's move forward. And then you have the moon. And it's really interesting that on this central kind of like thing, you have major arcanas. And moon falls in your house on hopes and fears, which kind of like is really interesting because moon by definition is always not giving us a good visibility, right? Moon always represents illusion. Moon represents what we wish to be, kind of like we lose ourselves in a movie and for a moment we are that hero or that heroine, right? So we kind of like, you really want something, you have this big dream about your life and how you want a life this to evolve, and this is nothing bad about it, but you also have at the same time fear. Oh my god, this is like what I have in my mind and my dreams are not coming true, right? So this person here is going to have a very grounding ability, because sometimes it's a sign of immaturity, wanting for something that is unachievable, or the person that doesn't exist. I mean, that's a reality. We need to kind of like find a pragmatic way of finding with another person. But you're not about being pragmatic this month. You're about kind of like being the best you can be. So this is kind of like entering a little bit of doubt after, I guess, you kind of like exiting some kind of like situation or constrictions, or the chains are off one way or the other. The moon can also represent jealousy of some sort, because you'll be able to be emotionally triggered this month. But this is another 9 that is really showing up. So you had 2 4s and you have 2 9s. So guess 9 and 4 is 13. So it's kind of like coming back to this card as well. And you have another major arcana above and saying, don't fret, things are going to really work out. And I really think this is really talking about the full moon in Leo, and it's going to be January 28th, and this is the romance time, because you have shed everything that you need to shed by that stage. You have closed the things who maybe this represented your ideal partner. Maybe you kind of like had that kind of like picture, and now you realize, that's really not what I wanted. Now you're really figuring out how to connect with somebody through the joint and common dreams, right? And it's going to be kind of like exploration of some sort, and clearly it's going to be some flirtation. But when you have this card stars, it's telling you that hopefulness and willfulness to move forward, to be in another world, is going to be really prevalent. It's going to be very, very important. So the best card in the entire deck. Without the hope, nothing else exists. So it's going to be a turnaround month for you, that's for sure. So now let's check your annual quickie forecast. Guys, if you're my past client, you can get like extensive annual forecast. It's a little bit discounted because it's a pandemic year, from $230 to $195. If you are not my past client, you need to wait a little bit longer to like clear the workload, because they really drain me out and I can only do one annual reading per day. So that's why they go a little bit slower. So let's see what we have here for your 2021 quick intro for my Leos. So let's see what we have. I'm looking only them up, right? You're having the burden, which is interesting. Like in January, you had this kitty that was leading the fight. This is the same thing, the 6 of Swords, or 6 of Clouds, I think, as they call it here. Ooh, you have the Rebel, which is the Emperor that you had. So usually January is always kind of like giving you the taste. It's almost like, hey, would you like this wine? When they give you just a little taste to try, and then you make your decision. And then there is like this healing, right? So this will be the King of Cups. But look at that big kind of like lotus opening in the heart. And you have consciousness. And this is a karma card over here that you have. So now this is really interesting, because look at that. What is freaking happening over here? Off he goes. He is trying to climb the mountain. And as if this is not bad enough and hard enough, there is like this woman who is basically jumping him and almost like directing him how to do, because she's a lady. She kind of like feels really entitled over here, and as a result of that, kind of like things are not necessarily moving well. I mean, this chicken is like, to me, the killer over here on top of her head. Even that is kind of like a part of this whole process, right? So this is kind of like that understanding that certain burdens are not something you really need to carry, right? So when we carry a load of shoulds and shouldn'ts, maybe they are imposed on us. And that's where I see like you cutting those chains on Emperor, right? This is kind of like connecting over here. Something is really happening, because it almost like looks like that you have been in a situation where you were getting these messages. You need to kind of try, jump higher, like you need to be better. And it's like, okay. And each and every time the stakes are higher and higher, and kind of like you're wondering like, why am I doing this, right? Sometimes they call it the middle-age crisis, when you kind of like reach this, but middle-age crisis is really where you can't do it anymore physically. You are not in that shape. But like, I mean, I don't know what age you are, but this is simply kind of like looking that, that perpetual struggle that we have, what we call life. It could be the time that you're simply going to kind of like shrug your shoulders and kind of like, if you have your own mountain to conquer and your own dreams that you really want to fulfill, you have to figure out who is the burden in the process, and what kind of like energy you want or you don't want to expand. So it's also time to kind of like lighten up, and anybody like that, kind of like send them their own way, because that's not something that kind of like is going to be needed in your life. And then you have the rebel, and I really like that the chains here are cut over here. Lots of things going on in this card, right? It's powerful, it's authoritative, and you can see this is the dude who is mover and shaker. He is the creator of his own destiny, right? And it's kind of like really interesting that he has the symbol of sun on his shoulder, which is basically your benefactor, if you wish. And this is kind of like somebody who is kind of like breaking those chains of this conditioning. Generally, this really talks about societal conditioning and kind of like things that people expect from us. And he's like kind of like growing wings so he can fly, right? So his way of being rebellious, mind you, the Emperor in the regular deck is not about rebellion. If anything else, is about establishing his power, and you're leaving this behind, but you're stepping into this new form of you feeling in this complete control. So you're not fighting against necessarily anybody or anything per se. You are letting go of people who are just having their, I call it musical wishes, in the worst possible time, and being in a place where they shouldn't be. But he is simply kind of like discovering his own true nature and now living the authentic life and being in accordance with that. So this card generally kind of challenges us to be courageous, to kind of like be responsible for the truth and live the truth. We live in times when you're just simply being laughed at when you kind of like want to do this, and when you kind of like want to go through these new phases, right? And this is like kind of like the fixed signs really role to stand up and to be counted as kind of like really we can kind of like really make this big change, right? So then you have this healing sign over here, and this is really interesting that it looks like it's going to be some kind of breakthrough for you, right? Healing is not necessarily that you need healing. Maybe you can also provide healing. It almost looks like you're now occupying a space that was not reachable before. So after this like huge enormous power and tearing these things apart and suddenly getting off your back things that really not needed, and not willing to be in conflicts, and maybe in order not to be in a conflict is creating a huge conflict and kind of cutting these bones. So bones are religion, bosses, society, parents, relatives, even our own brains, when we kind of like created, especially your fixed sign, when you created your own, if you wish, prison for it. So now maybe this is a time where we need to kind of like come down a little bit and realize there's like some new way, there's like a new beginning, there's like a new process that is really happening. And look at how important that is going to be for you, because you're also getting this consciousness. It is kind of like Ace of Swords, which kind of like talks about victory. Things are really moving forward. There's like this absolutely new beginning. There's like the active third eye, right? So it's kind of like really talking about the influence of our mind in our lives, right? Sometimes our mind tell us, I should do this, I should do this. This is kind of like that oppressive part, right? That we have this. But this is really interesting because look, we can see the stars. We can see here this Buddha figure, right? It's kind of like showing this is like a huge, almost like mountain-like kind of like size, right? So this is representing this consciousness to all of us who became masters of our mind. So you're just saying to yourself, mind goes just so far, but after, beyond that point, I need to trust myself. I need to trust that I have the tools and the universe or God is looking after me, right? So when this card starts to appear, and especially in the combination that I have it here, because look, you also have 6 and 4 and 1, you have 11, and this is kind of very spiritual component that's going to be happening. So for you, this means that there's going to be a crystal clarity, and that you're going to have no desire to kind of like look from the perspective of mind. And it's going to be that you're allowing the universe to really move you forward. It's going to be a huge element of harmony, that you're kind of like realizing this is the pulse of life, which you did get through that healing stage that you passed through. So it's almost like a huge, great gift. So guys, this gift is for you to keep, but it's also, this gift is for you to share. So keep that in mind. So let me just add Lenormand. Oh my gosh, I'm over the time, but hopefully you won't mind. So let's see what I see over here. Also for my Leos, to see the add-on to this. So with these burdens, we have the lilies. So clearly talks about the past issues. It could be that some of you have sexual issues or genital problem issues, or simply the harmony is done at a cost to you, right? And hence this is kind of like this rebelliousness that comes through, and you may be tired of other people influencing your life. Maybe you had somebody who is a trickster, somebody who betrayed you, or you feel they're really not on your team, if you wish, and you're kind of shedding all of that. It's interesting that both of them are looking down, and both of them look like what they had. It's going to be very different because you're going to claim yourself. So the healing comes with a garden. So this really talks to me about expansion. You're going to start feeling around your birthday time. This is a good time for, hey, I really want to date. And you might really hit the jackpot. It's going to be somebody who is emotionally not only ready and willing, but who has this like really big emotional things straightened out together, and who is willing to offer these big shoulders, and you'll feel this comfort. It could be a water sign, and it might be also air sign, or it might be even Aries. And then the consciousness is the clock tower. And even though this card generally talks about the government and crap like that, I couldn't not to focus. I just like first thing that I saw were simply what do you call it, the clock itself. Look at, there is like a gentleman coming. So the time is ticking of some sort, and the time is now. So whatever you're doing, whatever is this method, don't hesitate. Don't hold things back. You really need to kind of like be yourself, be authentic, and allow this universe, God, whatever is your belief system, to guide you. So it's going to be a really interesting kind of like thing that that you'll be experiencing. Here is really talking about this dating and expansion and spending time outdoors, and that somehow is going to be also very, very important to you. And this also, by the way, it can mean a contract, which technically can mean marriage contract, right? It could mean purchasing contract. It can mean new, much better job, something that clearly karma feels it has to mention. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind. All right, so let me get your oracle card, and you're getting Ghostlands Reversed. So let me read this for you. Ghostlands. This is what it says. When the Ghostlands card appears reversed, it is a sign that you are wandering in an emotional or intellectual place with no real substance. There is no point longing for that which has already gone or hasn't happened yet. Perhaps you have created a fantasy of the good old days or some elusive utopian destination that lies somewhere in the future when this or that happens to make things better. Live instead one day at a time. Each day is a new beginning filled with truth and beauty. Stay away from the ghostlands of past and future. Avoid nostalgia and longing for something better. So find joy in what is present in your life today. And I think that presence is going to make a big difference throughout the whole year, because you're going to realize, okay, right now I'm not feeling right. Why am I not feeling right? Is it me? It's kind of like self-check, first defense check. Am I okay? Well, I'm not okay. I feel burdened. Why I'm feeling burdened? Well, this is what is expected of me. This and this and this. Does this make sense? No. So this and this and this and this and this needs to go. I need to kind of focus on my own stuff. So that's where it comes to kind of like shedding the people. And this is still simply telling you, like, time is only now. We only exist right now. Everything else, it doesn't matter. And it's going to move you forward toward the place where you need to be. So my dear Leo, I really hope you're going to have a wonderful new year. As I said, do not forget to check your sun sign, your moon sign, your ascendant. Also, I'm going to provide a great conjunction video because that's something that is shifting us in a big way. So it's good to know. And if you want to get your 2021 and monthly kind of like calendars about the celestial events, sign up for my mailing list. And as I said, if you are a past client, you can order your personal annual. If you're a new client, you can just still stick around with the regular readings. You can visit me at cattarot.ca. You can send me a message. But in any case, I wish you all the best. Happy New Year and namaste. I love you.